Good morning. My name is Lawrence Gu. I'm the Dean of BCIT International Education. I come to today's coffee session, and actually this mug reminds me that I gave my very first presentation in McGill University under the seminars in mechanics in 1987. And today, we're going to take this opportunity to talk about microcredentials at BCIT. So let me introduce Eric Try, who is the Associate Dean of Agile and Work Integrated Learning, who is also serving as the chair of BCIT Education Council. Eric.
Good morning, Lawrence. Thank you for having me. It's interesting you told the story of your cup, because my cup says celebrating 30 years on it at BCIT. Well, I wasn't in the research innovation 30 years ago, but I was a student here 31 years ago in 1991, and then came back and became part of faculty in 2001. So my journey has also been a long one, of which I'm really excited to come back to BCIT and help other people start their careers as I started mine here as well.
So Eric, maybe you could tell us about what the BCIT microcredentials are.
Oh, thank you, Lawrence. Microcredentials are short, stackable, transferable courses that meet an industry need. They're competency, skill-based, and they help people reskill, upskill, and co-skill in their careers. I often think about microcredentials as being like a menu, where you can have some microcredentials are used at the beginning of a career, starting a career, trying out new jobs and new opportunities and new industries. They can be used during a full-time program as an endorsement for a specific skill that they're learning throughout their full-time program, and they're often used after sort of like the dessert of the meal for professional upgrading, learning new skills and new techniques to maintain currency and relevancy in a fast and ever-changing workplace.
That's very interesting. And I understand there are two kinds of microcredentials. One is called badges, another one is called microcredential. Well, what are the differences?
So the badge is for an individual course, a course that's small, 0.5 to 3 credit course. And it specifically trains the student on a competency so that they have a skill that that they've demonstrated that they are competent at. And the microcredential is a collection of courses, so it's a small program. So think of our badges, our Eagle badges, as small courses, and our microcredentials as small programs that include small courses. Our microcredential is between 3 and 9 credits, so it's less than 10 credits. It's still a sampler, or not. I wouldn't necessarily say a sampler. When it's being used before a career, it's a sampler. But even for professional upgrading, it can be quite in depth and have significant rigor in it. But it's still a small piece of industry knowledge.
So Eric, what factors have made the microcredentials more needed now than ever before?
Well, microcredentials are more than just a provincial category. They're being used across Canada, and they're being used internationally. Australia, New Zealand, lots of places have been using microcredentials because they've been realizing that a 4-year degree takes too long to keep up with rapidly advancing technology. So people need to be able to learn the new skills and new technology very rapidly because of the exponential increase in the speed of innovation. Well, in addition to technology advance and process advance, there's been some pretty significant shifts in the workforce as a result of COVID-19. People having to reskill into new careers and new jobs as a result of the shutdown during COVID-19. Climate change is another big one, right? It's going to have a fundamental shift as people are retrained into new industries, needing new skills. We're also seeing a lot of migration and immigration as a result of climate change and economic and world challenges. Also very valuable for micro-credentials for reskilling, co-skilling, and upskilling people to prepare them for new opportunities in the labor market.
Micro-credentials standing alone, or they could be laddering into other credentials at BCIT?
Yes, they can ladder into other credentials. So especially the ones that are sort of more introductory make great opportunities to ladder into higher credentials. And so somebody might take some micro-credentials exploring jobs in the healthcare industry and then decide that they want to get into medical imaging or nursing, and that will ladder into these degrees and higher education. Also, somebody that maybe is an engineer that takes a micro-credential for co-skilling and learning about construction management might end up taking another career and expanding their education through full-time programming in in construction management as a result of an introductory course intended for co-skilling, but resulting in a new career opportunities. Remember, one of the opportunities about somebody that's professionally upgrading in a different genre or workforce domain than what they're used to is you get that point of innovation where these two disciplines converge. So for people that have already experienced education, micro-credentials are a good opportunity to find those points of innovation and then expand their education further in another domain as well.
So how does the micro-credential address the skill gap?
The skill gap has become quite a big problem in the world. Just the U.S. Recently announced that they have 11 million open jobs and 6.5 million unemployed people looking for jobs. So that doesn't make sense. How can there be how can there be unemployed people when there's a skill gap? Well, the problem is that the unemployed people don't have the right skills for those jobs. So micro-credentials is a quick way for people to get those skills for those specific jobs and get in the workforce to help mitigate the challenges of the skill gap. Now, one of the things that comes from micro-credentials is they're short and they're credited. So not only can they take these courses to get ready for the workforce, but they also come out with course credits, which they can be used for other advancement.
And this is actually the great benefit for international education. And because a lot of international students want to just take one course to experiment how the BCIT courses look like before they decide to come to BCIT. By doing micro-credential, we'll give them that experience. And we actually started with a partner in South Africa offering the BCIT micro-credential digital programming. We actually use micro-credential as a part of our recruitment strategy so that students in overseas can take BCIT micro-credential at their own countries.
We also have the opportunity for helping Canadian students travel abroad with a micro-credential called Outbound Mobility Micro-Credential, where the students in Canada can learn about specific cultures that they're going to go and study in and prepare themselves for that intercultural piece to prepare themselves for success in those other cultures. And then we also have a Canadian Employment Readiness Micro-Credential for international students coming to Canada to help them with Canadian culture and the workforce, preparing for the workforce and the permits required and all of the associated intercultural pieces to enter the world of work here in Canada.
The micro-credential initiative does not only benefit the domestic students and markets, but also in our international education world. So thank you, Eric, to share your insight of micro-credential with us today.
Thank you, Lawrence, and thank you for having me for coffee.
Cheers.